Hi, my name is Mark Johnson, Global Editorial Board Chair for CDO Magazine and Regional Vice President for a company called New Era Technology. I'm really excited today to be with you and to bring this interview to you. I'm actually with Allison Gay, who's with a company called RSM. Allison, it's great to be with you today.
Nice to be with you as well.
I'd like to have you introduce yourself, but before you do so, would you take a moment to share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about RSM and what you guys do?
Sure. So RSM US is an accounting firm. We like to say we're the fifth largest, and we do not only accounting, tax services, but we do consulting as well. And I'm on the consulting side of
Oh,
RSM.
oh, great. And can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Sure. So I run our privacy practice at RSM, and that's inside of our security and privacy risk consulting practice. We provide security and privacy consulting for our clients. Our market tends to be the middle market, but we also help small businesses as well as Fortune X companies. Um, Cybersecurity, privacy, you name it, we probably do it.
Awesome.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your role there and sort of how it's configured in the work that you do.
Sure. So I run our privacy practice. And what that means is that I lead our privacy team not only in helping our clients to, assess or build their privacy programs, optimize their privacy programs, and that sort of thing, but I also help to grow our privacy practice. So out there talking to clients, identify their needs, and then do the work to get their privacy program up and running or assessed, remediation work, etc. I'm
Great.
also I'm also one of the RSM's AI governance leaders. AI governance is sort of a new space for RSM, although
Hmm.
I've been working in AI governance for a few years now.
Hmm. No, that's pretty powerful. So as you think about your role at RSM, what is your professional background and experience in the field of privacy law, and how did you develop your expertise in this area?
Well, I actually started off as a software developer early on in my career. And then soon after that, I moved into compliance officer role, where, I really started to see that organizations struggle with the concept of privacy. They struggle with wanting to spend the money on something like privacy, right? And then, of course, as my career progressed, the GDPR came out. And I think the GDPR, was monumental, not just to my career as a privacy practitioner, but in general, especially in the United States, the GDPR really started to shift the mindset of
Mm,
business owners, of organizations, that, hey, this is something we need to start taking seriously. And I think, at the time, I worked for an international development company, and they were in 35 countries. And so, you know, getting their privacy program to really be up to par for the
mm,
compliance obligations of things like the GDPR, but also the other privacy obligations in pretty much all of those 35 countries, and that multi-jurisdictional experience has been very valuable to me throughout my career, for sure.
yeah, that can see where that would really be key. As we move forward in the interview, I was curious, in your opinion, what are the most significant privacy risks and challenges faced by organizations today, and how do you mitigate those risks?
There are a lot of risks associated with privacy, especially these days, right? When with the advent of AI, et cetera. But I think really when you boil it all down, the most significant risk to organizations is alienating and upsetting individuals, their customers, their consumers, their employees. Um, with that mind shift that I talked about earlier, it's really become organizations used to feel, at least in the United States, right? Organizations used to feel like they paid to collect the data, they paid to process the data, they paid to
Right.
store the data, so they own the data. And what we're seeing since the advent of GDPR is that really it's the individual that owns the data. It's really the individual that should have control over that data. And so that's a shift in a mindset that not all organizations have caught up to yet. Or even if they have, as far as a mindset goes, they don't always understand how to operationalize that.
Hmm.
And so you really have that potential of alienating your consumers. And I have an example, Meta. We know that Meta, because they've talked about it, they have not gotten new users, especially the young generation, right, that they were hoping to get as users of their product. And while there's many factors to that, one of the significant factors that's being talked about is the fact that privacy is a main issue for that young generation. They
Mm.
saw what happened with their parents. They saw what happened with things like Cambridge Analytica, and they are more cautious than the older generations with their personal data. And they're not willing to use a product or an organization that isn't, that they don't trust to guard that data. And so, if it's really important for organizations to understand not only the reputational risk that's involved with privacy and doing privacy the right way, but losing your consumers. There have been recent surveys out where a vast majority of consumers are willing to leave a company behind if they don't trust them. So I think
Yeah.
that's pretty powerful and pretty important. And the way that you mitigate that, the way that you handle that challenge, is by not only having a comprehensive privacy program that's fit for purpose for your organization, but also by making sure that that privacy program is built on privacy principles, right? So it's important that you look at your regulatory compliance obligations, sure, but
Hmm.
those laws are built on privacy principles, and so that's really what you need to work on in your organizations.
So and that's really, I think you're making a key point there. So policy, standards, and procedures that encapsulate the principles of good privacy practice are really essential to framing a program or an approach to operationalize the activities that are required, I think is what you're saying. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. And I have a lot of questions around that, but I want to keep moving in the
Mhm.
interview so we don't miss some of the other key points here. One question that I think our viewers are really interested in is how you stay updated with the evolving policy, or I'm sorry, evolving privacy regulations and laws, and how do you ensure compliance with the latest privacy standards? As you mentioned, GDPR was a catalyst, but now we
Mhm.
have CCPA on the California side and other regulations coming. Gen AI has introduced a whole new set of risks and, as a result, obligations on the part of a large organizations who want to use Gen AI. So, how are you staying up to speed on the latest sort of compliance laws and regulations that are out there and the standards for compliance?
It's certainly not easy these days. I believe it's estimated by the end of 2024, 75% of the global population will come under privacy regulations. And that's huge, right? So staying up to date with all of the changes, because even, in the United States, we now have 14 states that have passed privacy related laws.
Hmm.
Some states are already suggesting amendments to those laws, not to mention the growing number of laws around the world. And so there's a couple of things that I do to stay informed on the updates. First of all, I have an amazing team. And so we divide and conquer to a certain extent and help keep each other updated on various regions that we've sort of volunteered to take over. There's also organizations such as the International Association of Privacy Professionals and other such organizations that regularly put out updates and articles. They have trackers for all of the upcoming legislation, all of the amendments. And so, and there are also, of course, tools which are excellent at keeping organizations updated. But I learned this from a CPO that I recently spoke with, and she told me that you can't act on information if all you're doing is ingesting information every day, all day long, right? You need to give yourself time to do both. So in the morning, I tend to ingest the key updates that are important to my clients, that are important to me. And then in the afternoon, that's when I act on those things, right? So I don't spend all day reading, because I think you could spend all day reading with the amount
Right.
of updates that are out there. And then the other important thing that we do on a regular basis as a team is when we have a client that says, "Hey, I need help with compliance with China," for
Mhm.
example, and the privacy law there. We Even if we know China, even if we just worked with another client for China, we'll update ourselves. Okay, let's take another look at it. What came out? Did we have any guidelines updated? Has anything new come out? Is there an amendment in the works? How likely is it to pass?
Mhm.
And so we update ourselves as we go, just to ensure that we're looking at the latest and greatest. And then, you would ask me how we ensure compliance to that. And that's really the way to do that, right? You don't want to just assume that you already know the law, because things just change too fast in privacy. What we used to say 2 years ago is no longer the latest and greatest in
Mm.
privacy.
Allison, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a fascinating
Sure.
interview, and I think it's going to bring a lot of value to our listeners and readers here. You guys have been with me today as we've listened to Allison Gay, who is National Privacy Services Leader at RSM US.
It's been great talking to you, Mark. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Same here. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And you know where to find more great content like this right here at cdomagazine.tech.